We're here today to talk about real estate.
Hello and welcome back to the Real Estate Unlimited podcast. My name's Sierra Steinmetz.
Brian Schuby.
I'm Bill Jones.
And we're the Jones Home Team.
And this is episode 23. And we got a special guest in-house, none other than the Dustin Michael Cleveland of Seneca Foam and Encapsulation. He's back for round 2. How you doing, Dustin?
Hey, I feel privileged to be here.
Oh, good. We're privileged to have you here. So you all missed a fantastic podcast that was never recorded. So everything that happened right before this would have been gold, but it's never going to see the light of day. So it was amazing. Getting a little late start here, but we're getting into it. So we're 23. I think this week we wanted to talk about a couple things. Obviously, we would talk about spray foam, some of the stuff you guys get into. Brian had some questions for you with that. We might throw a little trivia at you, sir. See, and we want the man on the street, the insight only your perspective can bring here. We're in the real estate world. We see all the same stuff. We kind of get in an echo chamber. So we want to hear some real grit stuff here. We'll get into, so the one thing I really liked here, if I can pull it up, let me get my computer to work here. I guess your website and stuff like that, Dustin, here. Where's the best place for people to find you?
We just had a discussion about how we need to update the website. But I do a lot through Facebook. Facebook's probably my biggest. But this is the website here.
SenecaFoam.com, and then your website, or then Facebook. Yeah, just Facebook at Seneca Foam then.
Yeah.
You got some cool stuff in there.
Yeah, definitely need to update the website, though. It's a couple years old. Haven't done much with it. I'm not a super tech savvy guy. So
you got stuff going. I saw the one post you had here. Then you were moving stuff out of a crawl space.
Yes.
That's 1,660 pounds of stuff.
Yes,
How did they end up with that?
Just, a lot of times when contractors are building a house, they figure nobody's ever going to go down in the crawl space ever again.
So use that as a trash
pit. Yeah, or you call up a plumber and he comes in to fix something and he just kind of leaves his mess down there. So it's not uncommon for us to pull out quite a bit of trash depending on the situation.
That's wild.
Yeah. And that 1,600 pounds, there was still some after the fact that we hauled all that to the dumpster. There was still probably another truckload after that we had to haul out.
I was just going to ask if you've been working out lately.
Yeah, right? I tell you what, it's definitely a workout, especially, like some of them pictures you can see, like the old cast iron plumbing.
Yeah.
Like that stuff is not light, and then you got to drag it 30, 40 foot on your belly.
Right. Looks like a job. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you do that. Yeah, 'cause, I'm sure we've seen some of those then too. You peek down in a basement or whatever, or a crawl space, and you see all kind of stuff like that. So,
yeah.
All right. So, Dustin, I'll have you jump in here with any of this stuff here. If any of this makes sense to you, or if you've ever heard of it before here. So, 7 things. I love this article here. 7 real estate strategies that died in 2024, but agents keep doing them. I don't know that we're necessarily all doing them or not, but we've all, us in the real estate world for the most part, have heard of them. Door knocking. What's your thoughts? It's a trivia question. What do you think happens with that?
Door knocking?
If you're trying to market.
I did a ton of when I first started the business.
You do that now.
I did a ton. Yeah, if I'm passing a new build house or I see a pole barn going up or something like that, I have no problem swinging in like, hey, you thought about insulation? So, But that was huge when I first started out. It's about all I did. I just started knocking on doors. Now so much, these days I don't have to do as much. You kind of get that build up your clientele and repeat customers and whatnot.
People are coming to you then?
Yeah, but
for a long time you said that in a referral group. You'd say that just, hey, if you see a new building going up, let me know. I'll go knock on the door.
Give me an address. I'll do the rest. Yeah. Yeah.
But obviously work. So we'll just breeze through these. I highlighted some of that. So prospective buyers and sellers spending an increasing amount of time online, YouTube, social media, things like that. So not so much hey, let's knock on your door and figure that out then. Have you guys, I know from a real estate side, have you ever done that? Had any luck with that? Or
I haven't.
Yeah, I can't say
I know
some
either. Bigger markets that I know they do that. I've done that specific. Someone says, hey, like you and Olivia said, hey, I really want this house. I would go knock on the door, try to get a hold of somebody. I'd probably hit them up on Facebook first more than.
I guess the closest thing I typed up a letter and I mailed it to a house that was not for sale because they were really interested in it and they had lived there prior to. But That's probably the closest thing to it.
It's actual door knocking, yeah.
Yeah, they talked about it on Selling Sunset, though.
Yeah.
There's a couple of the agents that said that they went door knocking, and that's how they got a couple of things, which, I mean, for a $5 million house, I probably would too.
Yeah,
so.
that'd be a whole different thing. And that's where some of the higher end neighborhoods, not that we really have that in our market, but yeah, the one in California, same thing. They said you're going to these multi-million-dollar neighborhoods, you think it's gates, whatever, but no, you knock on the door and people answer and, probably not worried about it. But yeah, I think to me, door knocking is more specific. You're trying to find a neighborhood, mailers, hit them up on Facebook. I don't so much go pound it on that. I found what drew me to this article. There's a guy that had a kind of a funny thing on that. So door knocking, he had some funnies for each one of these. Nothing says trust me with your biggest financial decision like showing up unannounced while someone's in their pajamas holding a half-eaten Pop-Tart. So that's usually that's kind of the reaction you get from somebody like, what do you know? I don't want to sell my house. Like,
Right.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
But it gets the conversation started. Traditional just listed and just sold cards. So Dustin, you get that? You go through your mails. Who does the mail at your house?
Usually the wife.
Yeah.
I do keep up with some of your stock on Facebook and on the internet.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
you got going on? Because I don't know. Are you still doing your Monday?
The money market up. We kind of fell off that for a little bit. We just
Yeah.
talked about kicking that back up.
That was the
again.
highlight of my Mondays.
Right. I know we need to get back to that then. It's more of the market stuff.
I think
then.
I was the only one who ever liked it.
I think you are too. You talked about it all the time then.
Right.
But yeah, I go through our mail. And the same thing. You get any of these, you just throw them straight in the
Yeah.
trash then. So I know we do some mailers, but this kind of got into telling a story. So, all right, Dustin, would this appeal to you more if you got this in the mail? If I can get this to pop up here. So if you got a story that said, I can't get it to zoom in now. My computer's gone insane. But more telling a story like on the postcard, the neighbor called, said, hey, we're moving out of state. I got to work. I did this extended marketing plan, attracting buyers, clear communication of the whole thing, and a smooth closing. Kind of told a story of what happened throughout the transaction versus like what most agents send out is like, hey, just sold. Look how amazing I am. I just sold this house for more than list price. Or I sold it in 2 days. Or, it's more of a brag on the agent than the story itself.
Yeah, but I think something like that is more. Let's say you don't look at cars in the parking lot or at a dealership unless you're ready to buy, kind of thing.
Right.
I think it's kind of the same thing with realty. You can send out mailers and people are going to look at them, but they're not really going to look at them until
they're ready to do
so they
something.
know somebody or they're ready to buy a house.
Would be the same thing with you, anything and just sales in general. You have spray foam, kind of the same thing. You can send it to me right now. I'm like, dude, I don't need this at the moment, but if I'm putting a building up,
but I consider it like almost like planting seeds. You know what I mean? I mean, they might not want it now, but if you leave that card or you leave that mailer, and if they don't just instantly throw it away, say they throw it in a cabinet or in a drawer or something like that, it's going to sit there till they're ready.
What's kind of funny is because I do that. I get the little building magazines that show up. I do have a little spot where I throw those in there. So you're right when it's finally time to build. I'm sure I'll go to those then.
Right.
So.
But like I said, you're passing a dealership. Yeah, you see the cars, but you really don't pay attention to them till you're ready.
Till you're on the hunt.
Right.
Till the wife says I need a new car.
Right.
Kelly's been saying that for a minute. I've been ignoring it to this point then.
Right.
Unedited listing photos from an iPhone. So I guess I don't know.
You wouldn't know what that's.
I don't know what an iPhone does. Yeah, those things are silly. No, I'm an Android guy.
I'm the only one in my house has an Android.
Good man.
And the kids make fun of me.
Yeah, we bully him too.
I tell them my app store's free though.
Right. Yeah. Well, do they have to pay for that stuff?
iStuff.
Like,
don't you?
No.
No.
Whatever.
I don't know. I've never used one either.
They're just pulling things out of their hat.
It sounds like nonsense then, but yeah, I'm definitely an Android guy here.
I definitely think pictures. I think your quality, if you're marketing, your quality of pictures is, I guess it comes down to that professionalism.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They're going to see a picture from Joe Schmo that looks like it's unedited from their cell phone, or else they're going to look at Bill Jones's where it was taken with a high quality drone.
Right. Yeah, you get a good camera. But I think you can take. These I don't have it handy here, but like the phones. They take some can take amazing pictures. They really can.
Right.
But I think a lot of it just depends on I'm no photographer by any stretch of the imagination, but if you just use common sense and try not to take a picture of, oh, this thing's full of dirty dishes, or there's a whole thing of laundry laying there. You have to move that stuff around a lot.
Or having the ones where you see the agent in the mirror, and they just did not pay attention. They're trying, but they're totally still in the mirror.
Yeah, and you still see their hand holding the phone.
Yeah. Do you see that a lot?
I think number of photos is also important too, because there's nothing I hate more than a potential listing I see for one of my buyers that has 7 pictures, and it's a more than 7 photo house, and then it's well, what are they not showing in the listing that might be important.
All right, and in MLS, you can put 50 or 100 pictures in. There's no, I mean, every house doesn't need 100 pictures, but yeah, you're right. More than 2 or 3,
Right.
You've got nothing.
Well, I mean, I've done that in the past where you're looking at a house and it's only got, like you said, 7 pictures,
And 4
but like
outside.
right, but it doesn't show the basement or the attic or the garage,
right?
and it looks like a good price, but then it makes you wonder.
Yeah, what are you not seeing?
It's a good price because the basement's shot, because the attic's falling in.
Right.
Like, what is it?
Well, they're just trying to rope you in.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, we have that discussion a lot as far as what do you do? You have to portray the house like it actually is, so you're not trying to hide anything,
Right.
but you try to make it show it in its best light possible. So
Right.
you're not making it, you're not hiding anything necessarily, but you have to make it look as good as you can. But yeah, the pictures where it's convenient, a couple inches over and there's the hole in the wall.
Right. Yeah.
If there's a hole in the wall, you
Yeah.
might need to show that then so people know what they're getting into. So. The 3 P's of marketing, again, here for real estate, putting the listing in the MLS, put a sign in the yard, and pray a buyer comes along. That doesn't work anymore, apparently. So most agents should and continue to do these 3 things, but a detailed marketing plan, position a home, for as many possible buyers as possible. So that's a necessity. And they're saying use my best friend ChatGPT to come up with some exciting ideas on how to market a home effectively now. But yeah, I think a lot of agents do that. I mean, I don't know what that's... I don't know how that translates into the spray foam world.
I have yet to use ChatGPT.
Haven't you really?
Oh yeah.
No?
Nuh-uh.
Well, you're missing out.
I don't know. It kind of scares me, because like
just be
I
polite to
didn't
it.
say it. You know what I mean?
I use a lot of please and thank yous talking to it because when the robots eventually take over, I wanted to remember well, that guy was at least nice. I'm not going to kill him.
Yeah.
So he said please. But I think a lot of agents still do that though. I mean, they're just, sign in the yard, throw it in the MLS and just I'll let someone else do the job, not going above and beyond. And a lot of them say, I put you on Facebook or whatever, but we do go put extra posts out. We put some money behind the marketing. And
I know even if I put out an ad like on Facebook or something like that, I don't use ChatGPT, but even after I post it, after it's paid for and it's out there, I'll still read it 100 times.
Just make
try
sure it's
to
right.
critique myself.
Yeah.
And even
Yeah.
the wife's
Right.
like, why are you looking at that again? It's like, well, is
Gotta
it
make sure
right?
it's right. Yeah.
Right.
So that's why I have Kelly catch my mistakes.
Yeah.
Done with that.
Well, people are usually pretty quick to call you out if there's a mistake.
Yeah. Again, going to my friend ChatGPT, blog post as lead generation. I don't know that we've used a lot of blog posts as lead gen, or you do a lot of blogging?
No. I mean, I not necessarily blogging, but I do follow a lot of spray foam forums.
Yeah.
Things like that. Yeah. But
So it's good to keep up with that. But again, I won't bore you with all the details, but this, for the most part, saying ChatGPT and AI has just overrun everything. It's so easy now to come up with a blog post that is just flooding the market now. So there's so much out there that it's hard to have, even if you have a good quality thought out post to put out, it's getting drowned out. Again, saying that you guys do a good job with Facebook or social media though too, saying kind of lean into that. Then.
Yeah.
So we as agents should be doing blog style content on LinkedIn and a couple things. I don't know a lot of people that buy a house on LinkedIn though.
Right.
We
I
post a
guess
lot of
that's
stuff
more
there.
for connections of people that might know someone though.
Right. So seeing a big resurgence in vlogging. So how about podcasting, Chris? Right, kind of the same thing. So so we're ahead of it here. I love this one. Acceptance of unprofessional buyer agents. So any industry has this. People that do subpar work or don't do their job well. So there's been a big change in our real estate world as far as for buyer representatives. I won't bore you with all the details now, but when you guys want to buy a house, it's kind of a different scenario now. So this is pointing out, so if you're buyer's agent at NAR settlement, being able to put up with a buyer that can't communicate their value. So if you're still struggling how to communicate your value, you want to find an agent that knows what they're doing and can effectively communicate that. Because if I can't tell Sierra how great of a buyer's agent I am, I'm not even going to do a good job. If I don't know what I'm doing for her, why the hell she's going to want to hire me or pay me for that then? I'm sure you're not paying me for that, but you're doing it yourself. You're doing your own good job, but just... but yeah, I mean, sure, you probably don't have near as much competition as we do, but...
No, I mean, spray foam is one of those. There's still not a whole lot of guys around that are doing it. And that kind of comes back to the knocking on doors, like when I first started out, you'd be surprised how many people still had no idea what spray foam was.
Right.
And so it definitely helped if I could knock on a door, have them answer, hey, what type of installation are you using? Have you considered spray foam? What's that? And then before you know it, it just kind of opens the door to
Sure.
to their options. And kind of coming back, like you said, communication with other agents. It's kind of the same thing with construction. You're working around electricians, plumbers, framers, roofers, all sorts of guys. And again, the jobs go a lot smoother if you can communicate with those guys. But then again, you have bad contractors out there that are, they might take a couple days off, but they're never going to tell you. Before you know it, you're waiting on them.
Yeah.
Or they do less than quality work or something like that. So yeah.
I like the PC answer there. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we deal with that same stuff then too. We've got some deals you're doing with a particular agent. Like, this is going to be great. This is going to be fantastic.
Right.
It'll be smooth. We're all going to talk. We're going to work together. Occasionally working with Brian, it goes smooth. Sometimes no. They always go good with Brian.
And even like we were talking this morning when I got to your office, just like on my end, this cold weather really plays a factor on what we can do. We got to the job. Guys got to the job site today, and the whole building was sweating. So now I got to communicate that to the general contractor and everybody else on the job site. Like, hey, yeah. So yeah. I mean, it relates to, I think, not only construction but real estate as well. I think any sort of profession.
Yeah, I think a lot of this stuff is fairly general, just to kind of the way the world works. Then
Yeah.
we're all in sales at some level, I think. So
Yeah.
Last one here. So again, we're knee deep in this all the time. Is waiting for interest rates to come down. Many agents just froze this past year, waiting for interest rates to return to 5% range. Although rates remain in historically average of 7%, the sudden dramatic increase in rates left agents wondering what to do. I think that left the community at large, or the world at large, kind of wondering what to do then. But yeah, this just kind of went into like, hey, just, the market is what it is. If someone needs to buy or sell a house, they're going to figure it out then. And the agents kind of need to do the same thing. Get your head out of the sand and go sell them a house or sell their house for them. So,
Right.
But a lot of people got stuck in that waiting for the rates to do something.
Right.
And I don't know. That probably doesn't come into your world too much, does it?
I mean, it can. I mean, interest rates and things like that definitely affect construction. I mean, interest rates go up. People are then a little hesitant to get that loan to start on that new build. But, a couple of years ago when interest rates were 3%, on the housing market, I mean, we were doing a ton of remodels and things like that because people were buying houses and they had the money to go for it. But I'm also one of them guys, whether the interest rate's 3% or 13%, it's one of those, you can wait forever till the time is right, but then you might just be waiting forever.
Yeah.
I'm one of the guys either, Sarah, how do I word this without being,
the answer going here.
Yeah. I mean, either do your thing or get off the pot.
Right.
Kinda,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So.
But you guys are doing a lot of new construction and stuff too. I mean,
Yeah.
people still building.
Yeah. Especially now, definitely seeing kind of an uptick with the phone ringing and things like that. And, I think last time I was on your podcast, we talked about how sometimes it can get political. But I think now that the election's over and things are finally starting to calm down, whether you're left or right, things, everybody.
It is what it is.
It is what it is now. And I think people are finally starting to move,
Sure.
do kind of what they had planned out now that everything's calmed down. So,
yeah, what do you guys, and real estate stuff still seems to be kind of a freeze-ish at the moment. Stuff's happening, but just not a lot of stuff actually.
Yeah.
It's been the last couple of years for us has kind of been that way.
Yeah.
I feel like in the next couple weeks, though, things will start to kick up. But that's just me being hopefully optimistic.
Yeah, just perpetual optimist. But I mean, if the numbers stay, history doesn't repeat, but a lot of times rhymes. So it's been, the last couple of years kind of been that way. January, February. You kind of started out in a RIP last January, I feel like, didn't you? What are you doing wrong this year?
No, I'm not doing nothing.
It's all timing. I mean, things just kind of fall into place sometimes they don't. So
Well, it definitely helps too, the people you have around you. You know what I mean?
Right.
I've gotten in with some really good general contractors that keep us busy. So, and I'm sure your agents, being with such a knowledgeable guy like you, Bill,
thank
and
you, thank
Remax,
you.
I'm sure your agents stay busy.
Yes. Well,
I think too, I've had a few recently that have come out of the woodworks after we haven't spoken since like October, because then you get into holidays, and if you've got kiddos and family and this, that, and the other, and then you get through all of that, and then you get through all the crappy weather that we've been having, and then people are like, okay, like let's do this thing that's going to be a pain in the butt to do, whether that's moving or whatever it is that you don't necessarily want to do when it's 13 degrees outside,
Right.
Maybe that's part of it too, just as an actual, feels like a real winter. this
Yeah.
winter. The last several
Yeah.
winters have not been much
Very
of anything.
mild.
So,
Yeah.
And I'd say repeatedly about this time of year. I mean, we get slow,
Right.
Like you said, it seems like the phone quits around Christmas time because obviously everybody's focused on his presents,
yep.
family, vacations, whatever it is, and then you're just dealing with all this nasty weather, freezing rain, 6 inches of snow, whatever. So I mean, I always try to kind of plan ahead for this time of year, whether it's padding the job board or whatnot, just something to kind of carry us through the winter. But I think I mentioned in your last podcast, once people start getting them tax returns, is when
burning a hole in their pocket.
is when we
Yeah.
start seeing another kind of uptick of phone calls. And it usually starts out with just a small remodels, like a bathroom or an addition or something like that. But as the weather gets nicer and things like that, and guys start getting out and working on their bigger projects, is where you'll see us start to really take off.
Then.
Yeah.
Ours is kind of the same way then too. It's the tax time, people have a little more money to work with then too. But end of the year, I feel like our office stayed kind of busy end of the year, but for the most part, the last couple of weeks of the year, you could just lock up.
There wasn't anything new coming in.
No,
Yeah.
Just you could holiday, New Year's, all that. Like everybody's gone. Seems like for the most part.
But I also think it's in a way it's building a name for yourself too. Because even when money gets tight, and say somebody does have an addition or wants to sell a house, and say money is an issue, they want to go with somebody they can trust, or somebody who's been around, or somebody who comes with a good recommendation rather than just Joe Schmo. I'm going to take a chance with him and my money, even though money's tight.
Yep.
They want to use somebody that they know is going to give them results.
That's been around then too.
Yeah.
Which again benefits the people that have put in the work. You know what I mean?
Right.
That should be knowledgeable. Like time in the business, I don't think makes you like in real estate. We get agents all the time. I'm probably one of them.
Right.
I've been doing this for 20 years, but that doesn't mean you're a good agent.
Right.
Just because you've somehow hung on your license for 30 years.
Yeah.
Same thing with spray foam. If you're doing a bad job, you're going to get a reputation for that. But if you're doing quality work,
Yeah.
But I'm sure your industry is same as ours. When things do get good, then all of a sudden every Johnny come lately comes out of the woodwork and has a real estate license. Probably there'd be a lot more people building and spray foaming.
I mean, it's crazy to say, but it'll be 8 years in July since we started the business, and I mean, a lot of us building has just been having making a good name for ourselves and doing the quality work. And even in that 8 years, I've seen not a ton, but I've seen a couple guys who have popped up. Well, because building construction was really booming.
Yeah.
Spray foam was a new thing. Everybody wanted it. And I've seen some guys who have popped up who have now
selling their rigs and stuff. Yeah.
Who are now no longer.
Yeah.
But I swear word of mouth is, I don't care how much money you spend on advertising or whatnot. Word of mouth is the best you can do.
Yep.
It just takes one person out there telling 10 other people how amazing you are, and then those 10 people go out and say, Bob said really nice things about this Seneca Foam. Let's use him. So
you're saying I should say nice things about how good a job you do? Probably would help.
Yeah. Right amount of money, I'll say all sorts of nice things for you, Bill.
But again, I think that I love this conversation. I think that plays into our industry as well. I mean, what do you got? I mean, what's your best referral? Someone you're pestering to death from a Zillow call, or someone that you're
probably when I started,
Yeah, right. That still works. Not bashing on cold calling or realtor or Zillow leads or things like that. But my best referrals were my grandma's passed now, but she all her bingo buddies or whatever people she ran into like, oh, you gotta use my grandson. You better close that one every time. That should be an easy one. So
the worst part is though is it's impossible to keep everybody happy.
Yeah,
I don't care how good you are. You always have that one customer that'll never be happy.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
Sierra's had a couple of those.
Yeah.
We all do. We all get those. That happens.
Yep. But
mine lately has been, now that my friends are kind of getting into their careers and whatnot, then they're referring coworkers, or if there's someone that's moving into town, stuff like that, which has usually turned out pretty well, because then we usually tend to be somewhat close in age too and relatable to each other and whatnot. So that kind of helps as well, especially if they're not from here, they've never bought a house before, and they don't know anyone else, and then you can kind of get in cahoots with someone that is maybe in a similar situation or is good friends with someone that they're working with, makes them more comfortable and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, coming from that word of mouth, I think I agree. I think that word of mouth is the best referral you're ever going to get from somebody then too. You can send all the postcards that end up in their trash or all the door knocking you want, but I think an actual good handoff would be good there.
Especially if you're starting out, I think. word of mouth is probably the
Yep.
best thing you can do.
Well, since we got you here, Dustin, we'll put you in
Yeah.
the hot seat.
Hey.
Shub had some questions, and I'm gonna let him ask a couple, and then Sierra have a couple. We're gonna put
Sure.
our heads together to figure out here then too. Let Brian kick it off. Well, you can't look at my computer though. This is just Sierra and I.
Yeah, so
Should I
obviously,
be blindfolded?
Yeah, maybe.
obviously getting ready to build, and I think a lot of people have obviously questions about spray foam. What I know there's different types: closed cell,
Yes.
open cell. What do you guys typically do, or do you do both, or?
We can offer both open cell and closed cell. Me personally, I tell everybody if it's going to be my house, my building, I would do a closed cell. If you really want to break it down and get scientific, technically nobody should be using an open cell alone, just due to its characteristics. I'm not saying your house will melt down if you go with strictly open cell, but I'm a believer in closed cell, especially in our climate zone. And open cell and closed cell describe exactly what the foam is doing on the inside. If I'm spraying some open cell, is that it's expanding, those cells on the inside actually pop open. So if you look at it through a microscope, it looks like a series of caves and tunnels, spider webs. It looks really gnarly. Your closed cells, again, as that foam's expanding, those cells actually stay closed. So if you look at that through a microscope, it's going to look like a series of honeycombs because those cells actually stay closed. And that's what builds the characteristics for each foam. So your open cells, because they are porous and I guess hollow, we could say, they're a lot softer. And to get the same benefits out of an open cell that you have with a closed cell, you have to go a lot thicker. So generally with an open cell, I don't like going any less than 6 inches. You can be safe at 4 inches. But even most your residential construction, those 2x4s, it's not a true 2x4. It's only about 3.5 inches wide. So you're not really getting that full 4 inches. So you're still somewhat, you could be susceptible to having moisture or air push through 4 inches of an open cell. A closed cell, because those cells stay closed, generally 2 to 3 inches, depending on the situation, is enough to insulate a house or something else. With a closed cell, because those cells stay closed, the foam cures a lot harder. When I say that, some people think like concrete hard. It's not concrete hard. You can still sand it. You can still cut through it, saw through it, whatever. But because those cells are closed, you're going to add strength to the building, and you're going to get your air and moisture barriers at a lot less thickness than you would with an open cell. So whenever anybody calls me, if they ask for open cell, I can give it to them, but I'm going to basically give them the rundown of the difference between open and closed cell to try to convince them to go with a closed cell, because ultimately I'm a believer in closed cells. But there are some guys around here they'll come in, they'll bid you for open cell, give you open cell, and not let you, not really break it down for you on what the benefits are between the two.
What are like the R values between the difference there then?
So with a closed cell, your R value is going to be about 7 per inch thick. So generally on a vertical wall, we're going about 2 inches thick. Would give you an R14. Your open cells are about 3. An R value of 3 per inch thick. But again, with an open cell, depending on the situation, we're trying to get as much as that in as we can, to where generally 2 to 3 inches of a closed cell is good enough. I tell everybody too, if you're ever curious, look at your cooler or your freezer. Generally, when they manufacture those coolers or those freezers, usually they're filled with some kind of foam insulation, and usually it's a closed cell. So say you got a Yeti at home, and heaven forbid you wanted to cut it open.
Yeah.
But if you were to cut that
You're
Yeti
rich.
open, the walls and the lid would be insulated with about 2 to 3 inches of a closed cell. And generally, if we're doing anything over 3 inches, it's usually something industrial, like an industrial freezer or something like that. But generally, in a residential setting, 2 to 3 inches of a closed cell is all you need.
And then, like, as far as life expectancy on spray foam, what roughly, how long does that last?
Yes. So as long as it is installed properly, it should be there for about the lifetime of the building. It should outlast you. And there's a couple things that'll hurt spray foam once it's installed, whether it's open cell or closed cell. Once it's installed, there's really only, and cured, there's only two things that hurt spray foam, and that is direct sunlight and extreme heat around 200 degrees. The UV light from the sunlight will actually start to break down the face of the foam, and the longer it's exposed to the sun, the deeper that UV light can penetrate. Same thing, around 180, 200 degrees, the foam will start to char and get real nasty. But outside of that, I mean, in most instances, that foam's getting covered up by drywall, sheet metal, whatever it is. So usually
don't set your house on fire, is what you're saying.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, when would it ever get up to 200 in a normal
sometimes,
setting, I guess,
residential houses, pole barns, guys will have like wood stoves or
Oh,
something like that.
okay.
So the
I'm trying to
exhaust,
think what would be
the exhaust pipe.
Okay.
So usually in that instance, what we'll do, there's an insulation out there called rock wool or mineral wool. It comes with a really high R rating.
Yeah.
As far as insulations go, it's not a great insulator. But it's really good for soundproofing and fire retardant.
Sure.
So if we get somewhere to where there is an exhaust pipe or something like that, we'll wrap that in rock wool before we bring the foam up to it.
Yeah,
and it gives it kind of a barrier.
Unless it's me cooking at home, I don't know how.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not too often we run into something like that. But like I said, if it's a house or a pole barn that's going to be primarily heated by like a wood stove or something like that, we got ways around that.
And then last question here, as far as, let's say somebody's doing new construction, when's the perfect time for you to get in there? As far as before the electricians and plumbers get there, and then also, same instance, how long does the spray foam take to, finish curing?
Yeah.
Can you move forward with the process then once you're done?
Yes. So I tell everybody it makes no difference to us whether the electrical or plumbing's in, but it'd probably save your electrician and your plumber a lot of cussing if he gets it in before we do. Because again, if we're using a closed cell foam, it's going to cure hard. So if his electrical box isn't in, or if he's got to, lay in some pipe or something like that, and that foam's in the way, then it just comes down to he has to scrape it out or he has to cut it out. And usually, depending on how much he has to scrape or cut out, then there's a possibility we might have to come back and touch it up. So if all that stuff is in there in place beforehand, then it's usually not an issue. We can go right around it. As far as cure time, so with an open or a closed cell foam, usually within a couple minutes, it's quote unquote cured. You can touch it. You can, it's not tacky. It's not sticky, anything like that. And it's expanded. Usually after that, depending on the size of the building, the whole process of us spraying foam is heated. So from the time it leaves that chemical barrel, runs through our machine, runs through the hose, everything's heated. Generally, depending on what type of chemical we're using or manufacturer, the temperatures can vary, but generally it could be anywhere from 100 degrees to 140 degrees that we're spraying this chemical, and that foam needs that heat to react. The foam will still react, but without heat, you get a poor reaction. You don't get the full reaction out of the foam. So the whole process has to be heated. Then it goes into the wall as we're spraying it. Then it expands, and in that, even though within those couple minutes, once it's expanded and you can touch it, there's still the off-gas process. So it's basically that foam cooling down after we have sprayed it. Because even with our temperatures at 100 to 140 degrees, that foam's still going to make its own heat too from the reaction. So basically at that point, it's the off-gas process. And generally, depending on the size of the building and how well it's ventilated, it could be anywhere from 12 to 24 to 48 hours, depending on the building. But after it's reacted, after it's cooled down and has vented off, usually after that there's no hazards or anything like that.
Okay.
So you don't want to spend the night in there, first night then? Bring
Yeah,
sleeping bags
right.
and stuff like that? Yeah.
Depending on how deep you want to go with it, it is a two-part mixture. You have basically your resin side and your isocyanate. And what can happen is people can have a reaction to that isocyanate. They call it an isosensitivity. I tell everybody it's not a peanut allergy, but you can have somewhat of a reaction like a peanut allergy, difficulty breathing, headaches, nausea, hives. I mean,
Sure.
And most people, because it's kind of a unique chemical, not most people aren't exposed to isocyanates on a daily basis.
Yeah, I don't think I saw that on the Cheerios this morning.
Right. So, I mean, it could be one of those. I mean, me and my guys were around it all day, every day. I've yet to have anybody have a reaction, but you could have a customer who's unaware who walks in while you're spraying, and if they're sensitive to it and they don't know, you could have problems. So generally we ask everybody to just kind of stay out of the area while we're spraying until it's ventilated properly.
Thus the big suits you guys wear.
Yes, suits and masks and everything else. Come out of there looking like a marshmallow when you're done.
Yeah, I remember when we built, they did the closed cell, and he said that the big thing he loved about it too. He said it's almost like you're spraying your house with Gorilla Glue.
Yes.
You know.
So your Gorilla Glue is a oh shoot, I lost my terminology here, but your Gorilla Glue and your spray foam are a similar chemical makeup.
So it's actually
yes.
close in composition. Then.
Yes,
okay,
yes. Because they're both polyurethane based, so that'd be
Okay.
your resin side.
Sure.
The original Gorilla Glue, if you've ever used the original Gorilla Glue, and you go back and look at it after it's cured, if any has kind of peeked out the sides of whatever you're gluing together, if you look, it actually does foam up just a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not saying Gorilla Glue is spray foam, but they are chemically comparable,
Sure.
if that makes sense.
So you're saying I should just buy a bunch of cases of Gorilla Glue?
Yeah.
They'd probably be more expensive, I'm sure.
Well, and with the
probably.
closed cell, that's what I tell everybody. By the time we're done, we've basically just glued your entire house together. And so that's where a lot of your increased structural strength and everything else comes from, is from that chemical makeup.
All right, cool. Well, we'll let you off the hook here on these questions here, Sierra, and I will have to have you back again here and grill you with some real estate trivia then as well. So, all right. Well, if you got any questions about foam, encapsulation, any of that fun stuff, go to senecafoam.com. Find Dustin on Facebook here. He's got a cool website, keeps you up to date, or he'll hit you up on Facebook. So,
yes.
But yeah, we'll wrap it up there. That's episode 23. Check back to episode 24. If you guys got any questions, got any guests you want us to get on here, let us know. We'd love to get your comments and questions and address them then. So until then, find us on Facebook, do all that fun stuff, like, share, do all the social media goodies, and we'll see you on episode 24. Thanks for stopping by.